This is the bar that Joe Gallo's bodyguard came into seeking revenge after his murder and killed the totally innocent manager, execution style, in the bathroom. Okay everybody, this is Mooney Dashcam. Tonight we are in Manhattan. We're going to be talking about Bobby Darrow and how he tried to get revenge for Joe Gallo's murder. By doing that, he ends up killing an innocent manager of a bar. We're going to be going to the bar that happened, so let's flip this around and get into it. This incident happened in 1973. The address that we're going to is 133rd West 45th Street. It was called Broadway Pub. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at mooneydashcam. I post on there pretty much every single day. Any crime scene photos that can't go on YouTube end up on the Instagram, so check that out. Also updates for any of my videos. Also, don't forget to leave suggestions for future videos in the comments. I very much appreciate that. I get a lot of inspiration that way. And hit the notification bell so you guys can see exactly when I post a new video. Okay, so to properly tell the story, we have to go back in time a little bit. I'm going to give you the name of the guy. His name is Robert Bangiovi. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but what else is new? At the time this happened, he was 36 years old. His nickname is Bobby Darrow. I'll be referring to him as Bobby for most of this video. As I was saying, to properly tell the story, you got to go back in time a little bit. Joe Gallo was out for his 43rd birthday on April 7th, 1972, in the middle of a war between the Gallos and the Colombos after Joseph Colombo on June 30th, 1971, was shot and killed in Columbus Circle by Jerome Johnson. I believe that's his name. That's going off memory here. The Colombos blamed that murder on Joe Gallo, even though to this day there's no evidence that he had anything to do with the murder. They believe Jerome Johnson was a lone gunman. Now, Bobby was Joe Gallo's bodyguard on this night, but it didn't make it to Umberto's Clam House where this all went down. Joe Gallo asked him to take a young lady home from the Copacabana. Maybe she wanted to go home, and he appointed Bobby Darrow to do it. So, of course, he did that, and he drove the girl home, which resulted in him missing the rest of the night. They get to Umberto's Clam House, owned by Maddie the Horse Iannello, a Genovese captain. At around 4 a.m., they say hi to Maddie, and they sit down. Little did they know, a Colombo associate by the name of Joseph Luparelli was at the bar. He sees them come in. He instantly runs to another restaurant where 4 Colombos were hanging out and told them what he saw. Those 4 Colombos contact Joseph Iacovelli, who was the acting boss of the Colombos after Joe Colombo got shot. He goes and tells them to get guns and go kill Joe Gallo. We only know this because the guy, Joseph Luparelli, turned himself in, fearing that he was going to be killed by those 4 Colombos that killed Joe Gallo that night. We are actually passing through Times Square right now. I've only filmed a couple videos where I passed through Times Square, so enjoy the sights. To the left is the big Coca-Cola sign that everyone sees in the pictures, but we're not going that way. After the wild shootout in Umberto's, which I will link my full Joe Gallo video in the description if you guys want a more in-depth look on what happened exactly on that night, Pete the Greek Diapolis, who was another Joe Gallo bodyguard, finds Maddie the Horse that night after the shooting. And Maddie actually missed the shooting. He was in the kitchen all night. So Pete the Greek presses his gun under Maddie the Horse's chin and says, "I'm gonna blow your head off. You set up Joey." Thinking that, of course, Maddie the Horse owned the place and called up some people and got Joe Gallo killed. But of course, that's not exactly what happened. We know that now, but they didn't know that then. It's gonna be close to impossible to park over here, but we're gonna try our best. Joe Gallo was one of 5 Gallos that Colombos put hits on. One being Albert Kid Blast Gallo, who ended up actually taking over after Joe Gallo was shot and killed. So Bobby Darrow was actually a part of the Gallows death squad during the war. So he was a serious guy at the time. One night, Bobby and his friend Frank, described as short, stocky, with glasses, decide they're going to go into Broadway pub, which is right here, was right here. So the address is 133rd West 45th. This is 135 West 45th. Between, it says Hyatt Centric, which I assume is a hotel now. But this happens sometimes in the city. They'll just consolidate an address and eat it up. So this is really just 135. But as you can see, it's a big front compared to even here or this one over. Oh, this fun car outside. Lamborghini truck. But yeah, so right here was the bar. They decide this bar because Matty the Horse Iannello's family owned this bar. His brothers, Oscar and Robert, owned it along with him. And their plan to come in here was to either kill Matty the Horse, it's obviously not a bar anymore, to either kill Matty the Horse or just send a message. So Bobby is a proven bad guy at this point. He has 3 rapes and 2 burglary convictions on his record as it is. And of course he's a part of a death squad, which doesn't make you the best of guys. Let's take a look at this Lambo right here. Hello. And a nice motorcycle too. Across the street, not get hit by a car. So Bobby and Frank stroll in here on a Sunday at about 11:30 p.m. There's barely anyone in there. Frank knew the bartender through her ex-boyfriend. Her name was Bobby Marceski. I don't exactly know how to pronounce that last name, but again, nothing new. She testified, that's how we got a lot of this information. She said when they walked in, Frank said, "Sorry to hear about you and Jack," which was the ex-boyfriend. She said she didn't want to talk about it. Then Bobby starts asking Sam Wuak's last name and where he lived. He was the night manager and the bouncer at the club. The bartender said she didn't know. So they sit there, they order scotch on the rocks with water as a chaser as they're trying to get their deed done here. Oh, this is the Broadway Museum. Interesting. As they're standing at the bar, okay, hold for honks. As they're standing at the bar drinking their scotch, Bobby calls over Sam saying, "Don't I know you from someplace?" Then Sam said back, "Yeah, you look familiar to me too." So after hearing that, they all finish their drinks. They toast to Sam, telling him good luck. Bobby leads him to the back of the bar, where he shoots him 2 times in the head, execution style, in the ladies' room. Some reports say it was 4 shots in the head, a couple in the back, but more say that it was just 2 shots. The customers that were in there at the time said they heard the shots, then screams. Then they both warned customers to not say a thing when cops came around, and they ran out of there. Let's get back to the truck now. Hopefully no one bothered it. Now, Bobby then gets arrested when he was at the Gallows headquarters, a social club at 76 President Street in Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn, and he was held without bail. Oh, look, the truck's sitting there. No one bothered it at all. I would assume that this whole block probably looked like this little building right here. The perfect pin. A perfect pint. Couldn't see the whole sign there. I would assume that's probably what the bar looked like back in those times. Not like that. But that's only speculating. Like I said, this is in 1973. It's on March 11th, if I didn't mention that before. We'll get into the truck and I'll tell you the pretty simple way of how Bobby was caught in this. So, the final nail in the coffin for Bobby was the fact that his fingerprints were on the scotch glass that he drank from, that he decided to order and sit at the bar with, knowing that he was convicted multiple times for multiple things before this, and that his fingerprints were on the record. So, not the smartest way to go about doing this hit that he really didn't need to do. I think they were just in the heat of the war and doing whatever they could to maybe get ahead or piss off the other people or whatever they were trying to accomplish, who knows. So he gets convicted and sentenced to life. I have written down here that he cordially declined to testify in front of the grand jury, which is just an odd way. I read that, I'm like, cordially declined. It just seems so odd. He was eligible for parole in 25 years. He ends up dying after serving 30 years in prison. Again, this is one of those lesser known stories that you don't hear about much, but I figured since it was part of the aftermath of the Joe Gallo murder, you guys would like to hear about it. One of the many, many things that went on after he was killed. So, I think that's everything I have to tell you about the situation, and I hope to see you in the next video.